So after I got bored from watching hentai, I just started to think about why gravity existed in the first place. Let me just get this like this. So as you can see, here there is gravity. And if we think that this is a two-dimensional world, then these things will be going to here in a model that which is described like this. You probably have seen a model where they put something in a blanket and something else just rolls over like that, and that represents gravity. The more mass that this thing has, it extends the blanket even more, and this causes it to go here. Now this is just a demonstration. We don't actually know why it actually exists and why does it even go there. I mean, if this goes here, it's because there is normal force and there is less normal force right here, so it's able to go here, and this just stays at here because its entropy as its highest. And this thing rolls over here, then it means that there must be a gravity under this thing. There must be a gravity under the blanket. And if you put a blanket in the space and try to observe the same model, you won't be seeing the same model in the space. Now I have a couple of models for this. This is a 3D model. This is just looks like an atom, just like a nucleus and the electrons, but it is not like that. It is just like the gravity, where the gravity starts and where it pulls, just like here when the object's here and it starts to go here. And I thought of very deep about this and why actually does it go here, and I found out that the only way that this can go here is that entropy must rise and time must continue, which means that if the time stays still, then this cannot go there. And we all know that time is actually an illusion. We create time because we actually call things that happens from here to here. For example, at a speed, let's say this is the speed of light, and this is a centimeter, and at the second the unit where the speed of light travels from here to here, we call it, let's say it's blah blah kilometers. It's a light year, it's a light year, and the time is actually the thing that must happen in order for light to go here. So as we all know, entropy actually exists, and entropy must go on and must rise throughout the universe. And I've noticed that if there's a gravitational field just like this from the side, we are looking at the gravitational field from the side at the blanket, and we will notice that here is lower entropy because the ball has no energy anymore. So the matter just wants to go together if they have things. And I've noticed that if it's light, electron, or anything like that, gravity affects everything. Everything. Even time. Gravity affects even time. So how things move and how chemical process happens, gravity even affects that. And here is lower entropy from the side. And from up above, we see that the entropy rises as well because it goes to the center of this. Now we cannot see how the curvature exists because I'm not that good at drawing and I cannot really do shades that much. But you get the idea. There is a gravitational field, there is a ball, there is a square, and here is entropy. Now we are getting close. Only thing that stays the same in our universe is that nothing stays the same. You will notice if I put this, you will say that it stays the same. It stays the same forever. But you will understand that it does not the same. It cannot stay the same forever. And many theories suggest that there is proton decay. It will start decaying if it stays like that. And if we assume it doesn't start decaying, it will get denser until the matter cannot hold each other, and it will collapse into a black hole. This will collapse into a black hole. And as I've noticed, gravity tries to shrink things over and over and over until it cannot do it anymore. And here it is all together or separately. It doesn't really matter. And over time, we means that we know that size shrink and shrink and shrink, and density increases and increases since mass cannot be created out of nothing. And it suggests that entropy lowers and it crushes thing under its weight. And here is I think that according to some I had read something on Google as well. It said that black holes can have different densities as well. So as we observe things on a time sequel, you will see it's something being a planet, and it getting bigger, and it being a star, and it being a black hole. And all of these processes, the things get denser and denser. And I don't know if a star is denser than a planet, but if it's not, the only reason that it is not is because there is something pushing it outwards so that it can have more volume. Other than that, it would collapse into a black hole, or a neutron star or a white dwarf, which is way denser than a normal planet, and these will all collide into a black hole at some point in the universe. And now I have figured out this. At our start of our universe, there was Big Bang. Let's say this point is Big Bang. And since Big Bang started, if we consider the Big Bang as a start of our universe, the true start of every matter and everything that exists in our universe, then we must consider that the entropy at this point can be the lowest as possible. It is the lowest point of entropy that can happen. And this, if our universe will ever have an end, then it will be the highest point of entropy. Which means that if this wasn't the lowest point of entropy, and if we know that entropy rises all the time, then it must be that something else existed so that entropy wasn't at its lowest, because entropy wouldn't happen like that. Then the Big Bang wouldn't be the point that the universe had started, because physical laws would continue to happen. And now there's a theory that suggests this. Since matter cannot be created out of something, and entropy must rise throughout the universe, then the only reason that matter started from something and that the entropy was lowest at Big Bang is that entropy was reversed at some point. How can I make you understand this? Basically, we say that entropy must rise, right? And we say that Big Bang was the start of this. Big Bang was the start of this. And since no matter can be created out of nothingness, the matter had to come from somewhere. And since the entropy started growing, then from its lowest state, then it couldn't have been the lowest state because if something else happened from before the Big Bang was entropy's lowest state, then the Big Bang wouldn't be a true Big Bang as we know it. It would just be another explosion in the universe. And that suggests that there must be something else that created this. And since entropy must rise, then entropy must have been higher before the Big Bang happened, and then it got lower, and then it got higher, because if it was low, then it wouldn't be at lowest place. Now I will explain another theory that matches with this, but now I will explain the loop theory. Now, as you can see, this might be really confusing because it says we are here, we are here, we are here, we are here, and it says Big Bang, Big Bang, Big Bang, time reversed, time positive, time negative, time positive. Heat that. And I realized something. If things continue happening, if things that has continued to happen, then this might have been the only way that our universe exists right now in a logical spectrum, because something had to happen, like a matter had to exist, or energy had to exist, something had to exist before our Big Bang, so that our Big Bang could have happened. Now, some people who believe in God may say that nothing existed, but that wouldn't be true, because they are suggesting that God has existed before the Big Bang. So God had existed infinitely. So they are agreeing me on this point. So if matter cannot be created out of nothing in our world, then something must happen, and the entropy slows down, and then entropy starts rising again, and we are here. Big Bang happened 13.5 million years ago, or no, billion years ago, and we are here, and then we will be here, because why? Big Bang starts, we have already talked about this, as the lowest point of universe at that point, and then it starts rising, rising, things happen, and then here, and then things start colliding into black holes, Hawking radiation, things decay, and there is no order anymore in the universe. There's heat death. The heat is very, very low, and then the entropy reaches its maximum. And since nothing can stay the same, and since we know that something had existed before our universe, it means that the entropy couldn't have stayed here. If the entropy had stayed here, we wouldn't be experiencing our universe as it is right now. Entropy must have been lowered so that entropy started from its lowest point and went from above, and so that Big Bang, as truly know it, started everything that is right here. And therefore entropy must be reversed again, and reversed again is here, and then it must be rising again. And here, as you see, is a theory that suggests that our universe is in an infinite timeline, has existed infinitely, and will exist infinitely, because it's the only thing that could happen. And this, as we know it, is the predeterministic approach of the universe, which means that everything is predeterminism is a philosophical belief that everything that goes in a chain, and nothing is random actually. For example, if you say that you have a bag, let's say we have this, and this is the pen that I would like to choose. And let's say I put this like this, and I just do this. Then I'm closing my eyes. Then what is the probability of me choosing that pen? And as you know, in mathematics, there are a lot of probabilities depending on their sizes, depending on their positions, or blah blah blah, or it might be 50-50, or it might be 1 in 100, or even higher than that, or lower than that. But however, predeterministic approach says that either I will take it or not. There are no such thing as possibilities. For example, I am consisted of matter as well, just like this pen. How it has atoms, how it moves according to the physical laws, I move and I behave according to the physical laws as well. For example, if I drop this pen, there is not really a probability of it not going downwards, because if you calculate every effect on the universe, on everything on the universe with all 100 correct physical laws, then you will 100% be able to say that this pen will go down, because it has to go down. It acts like this. And out of 100 tries, and out of infinite tries, and it says that it must go down under these circumstances. There are no other possibilities like that. And that's how scientists can calculate how they are going to land a spacecraft to something that is billions of kilometers away, or something like that. Because they know that if they calculate everything, their gravitational force, they will do it. And if they calculate everything, and if they couldn't be able to do it, then they must have calculated something wrong. because there are no possibilities of failure when you are 100% sure that you're going to do it. And therefore, you cannot be 100% sure of anything, because nothing is a perfect calculator and perfect knowing thing, because it had to know itself as well. And therefore, there is no practical approach of anything being able to calculate the future, but it can only predict by a large amount. Therefore, this suggests that it must go on and on and on, like this, as I explained. And therefore, since things continue existing, and if entropy just stays at some point and goes back, just like how it started from the start, it Big Bang, then everything, it's logically to assume that because Big Bang started like that, from everything, right? This is how scientists say. And heat that must everything reaches higher entropy and go back. This means that ton 618 will reach highest entropy at the same time as a proton, and that might suggest that entropy goes in a line something like this, because it slows down as things get bigger, and therefore they kinda equalize with each other. Now, next place. Entropy wants to shrink things until it can't anymore. Black holes are the limit or something like that. We don't really know, and it goes denser and denser and denser. For entropy, we can say that black holes will decay as well due to Hawking radiation, which also suggests that things can always come to an end and doesn't really stay the same. Because if entropy was the limit for black holes, then nothing would happen afterwards, or Hawking radiation would be a term for entropy reaching backwards, since it cannot go further anymore. And does physics really break when entropy is reached, or does it turn backwards? We don't even know that. Or black holes are just objects that are who break physics, or who act something in the physical laws, or just regular objects that are really dense. This is a really, really important question as well. And Big Bang couldn't have happened from nothing. If Big Bang couldn't happen from nothing, if the maximum entropy is reached and physically nothing can happen, and mathematically things can keep happening, the only way for things to continue happen is for entropy go backwards. Which, as I said, if a Big Bang happened, it was the lowest entropy state, and something existed before Big Bang, then the only reason logically it can only exist. Let's say entropy was zero. Okay, let's say entropy was zero. And entropy cannot go minus, right? If entropy was zero at this point, then only things to something existing in the beforehand that caused Big Bang in the first place is to entropy to go backwards, because it cannot reach zero, and it must have caused the Big Bang in some kind of way. And moving on, and this is another theory which says that entropy started from zero, or never started from zero. It was never zero, and it will never be maximum, which means that it started and it will rise and rise and rise, and more it rises, the more it will slow down, or at the same rate, more it will faster it will go. We don't really know, but it won't stop. Basically, it's an open-end function. And Big Bang at some point or not, because as we look at this graphics, or as we say this, even a graphic like this cannot indicate Big Bang, because it didn't start from zero. It didn't start from zero, which is not really this thing that scientists claim, or really something that is claimed by most of the people. And Big Bang really created everything that we matter as know it. This theory cannot be true, because something existed as a matter or things before Big Bang. It didn't start from point zero. Entropy was not zero before Big Bang. Or if something happens like this, or this theory suggests that it couldn't have, the theory suggests that the entropy couldn't have been minimum. Therefore, Big Bang was not an explosion that we think of it is. So it didn't create everything. If it existed, it was just a normal explosion, and in this case, no one would really call it the Big Bang. And as I said, Big Bang truly never happened for this, and it was just a normal Big Bang, and not the Big Bang, and just a regular bang. And heat that will never actually happen as well, and the Big Crunch will never happen, because entropy at some point will never reach zero or never reach maximum level, if I'm understanding as I am supposed to. And let's say just this first, and why am I saying that this must be infinite? If we say something must have happened before Big Bang for this matter to exist, then we must say something must have happened before this, and something must have happened before this, and 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 something will happen after this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And therefore, if Big Bang was different, let's say something was left out, then in infinite time nothing would remain. And let's say something, Big Bang left out something, just like in this, Big Bang happened right here, but entropy wasn't zero, then they were left out, and in our universe would start. Then if it wasn't a loop, or it wouldn't equalize itself over time, then it must mean that nothing would remain to our time, because there were infinite time must have before, and if every time or something like that, even in the slightest, the Big Bangs were leaving something out to the other universe or other portion of the space that we are living in, then in our portion of the space, in infinite time, and nothing would remain. Exactly the opposite. Over an infinite amount of time, things get infinitely big, which is logically impossible, because you cannot think of anything like infinitely big other than your mom and your porn addiction. But that's another topic that we are going to talk about right now, after this video. But however, things cannot get infinitely big, because there must be something that is bigger than them, or theoretically can be bigger than them, or theoretically can be slower than them. For example, if you imagine on paper, even if Planck length, if you take it half a Planck length, you say this is half a Planck length. In mathematical paper, you can point out that this is half of the distance than the Planck length, or infinitely big as well, which is logically impossible. And in our universe, we wouldn't be able to think that we live, or a Boltzmann brain, or any kind of existential crisis couldn't have happened. However, when it's a loop with itself neutralizing it, so let's say out of Big Bang, 5 were left out, and 10 were left out, 7 were recovered, 1 were left out, 9 were recovered, then it equalizes itself, and no matter how big this equalizing itself, it is nothing to when it's compared to infinity. Therefore, if infinity, even a slightest thing, is different over time and it's growing, then it would be neither as big as it can be, which is infinitely big, which is impossible, or nothing at all, which is impossible as well, because matter can't disappear and appear out of nothing. So Big Bang must recover and add like equally over time, and this must be a loop. How big is the loop doesn't matter. It could be 2 plus 2 minus 2, but over an infinite time, when compared to that infinite time, as I said here, it is really nothing. It is nothing. And let's say I had some weird theories as well, and this is an unknown shape. This is not square. And this is Big Bang DVD screen. Every time it hits the corner, a Big Bang happens and something happened. This indicates that Big Bangs were different than each other. Then at some point, does it need to somehow those Big Bang create a loop or not? That was what I was trying to understand. Because as you will see, if there's infinite space here and you hit DVD at some point, some angle, that is, there are infinite angles as well, that we have this just, you know, divided into 360, but there are infinite angles, and it's any direction you throw it other than the corners, it will probably go infinitely because it's infinite and it won't repeat itself. And let's say there are infinite possibilities of collisions, you know, infinite things that happen, and we have infinite time. Just like I said 2 pages earlier, right here we have infinite time and infinite possibilities. Will it ever repeat itself? That's the question. And I really don't know the answer, because the question we are asking here is this. And we don't really have an answer for this, as far as I know. This is a theoretical thing or a philosophical thing. Or either it will never happen because it's an infinite space, or it will happen because it's infinite time. Or the probability of happening is 50-50, but over an infinite time, 50-50 is actually a possibility. It will happen as well. And as we know it, in an infinite time and an infinite amount of space, a DVD logo must hit the corner or not. What is the possibility of DVD logo hitting the corner? Or, and in this case, the Big Bang. And there are some options that I just think. And the only logical option that I can think of is it cannot be zero. As you can see here, there are infinite possibilities. Let's say infinite possibilities, and let's say it takes a very fast. It travels at light speed, and let's say it travels very fast, but not really fast compared to the infinite space, right? And after some time, it still has an option of collision. And the thing that I am implying here by infinite space is that infinite space, because it cannot never be the same as it hits right now. It can change 1 nanometer, 1 yoctometer, or 0.05 nanometer, but it can still be the same. Let's say it can reach these corners, and it can reach here and come back. But and we know that this is infinite space, but still, if it comes back somehow, then the probability of it being at the same exact place is not zero. Even if it's very low, it shouldn't be zero. And that's why that I figured out this question. If there is a single ball in an infinite bag with infinite balls, would being able to try one time or 1 billion time really matter in the spectrum? For example, it wouldn't change this and this, however zeros that you would like to add. And if you say this, there are 2 possible debating topics or 2 possible theoretical outcomes of this. One of them suggests this. Let's say this is 10 and this is 10. If you apply something 2 and something bigger than it, then the possibility of this happening is greater. However, then we understand that possibility is actually just an illusion, that we call things that we don't know the outcome of, because when you put your hand inside of the bag, you don't really know what's going to happen. So you say it's 3 out of 10, but actually you will either pick up the ball or you will not pick up the ball. And after you pick up the ball, you will understand that there was only one possibility that was truly there, and that was that you had to pick up the ball. And at this point it is the same, because you can do this. do this, and you say that 2 is bigger than 3, then it must be that this, 3 is bigger than 2, therefore this must have more possibility. But at this here, you can't really say that, because infinite is the most biggest thing that anyone can't imagine, actually cannot imagine, because it's too big to imagine. Our heads cannot comprehend how big it is, because it doesn't actually exist, and those numbers really doesn't matter anymore. And if there's one ball and you will have to pick up that ball, then you will pick up that ball, even there are infinite possibilities. And if there are 1 million or 1,000 or 1 quintillion possibilities, you might still not pick up the ball. So at this point, it is not a possibility anymore, and either you will pick up the ball or not, just like anything else. But if you do not know, and you will want to play for your chances, and you don't want to take a risk that big, then you just take your possibilities and do the best thing that will maximize your income, just like choosing this instead of this when you don't know. But actually, what you will choose is actually predetermined. That's another topic that we are going to talk about, maybe later. Oof. Anyways, I think you're bored, but you see a lot of things here, and these doesn't really make any sense. This infinity 0, 1, 0, it's the same thing. And you must have seen something like this. Big Bang starts, the universe you understand what I'm trying to say is expands and expands and expands. Let's say Big Bang had a reason, means that it couldn't have been created out of nothing. Then there must be something that I was saying. If it's a Big Bang, the matter or energy must have gathered into a single point. It couldn't have been there all the time, because otherwise there wouldn't be no reason for it to happen at the time it happened. Meaning the reason that caused for the Big Bang to happen was actually because all the things gathered into a point. Then all the things that they were already gathered there would have happened into a Big Bang at that moment. So only explanation of the things that in the Big Bang not to be gathered to that point is that things just happened to be there, which apparently doesn't make any sense and which is illogical. If entropy must rise through time, and Big Bang is the true start of our universe, then where everything actually comes from, then entropy at the point as we know it must be at its lowest. Let's call it 0. And if somehow something existed before Big Bang, since entropy couldn't have been lower, it must be higher before Big Bang, and it lowered over time, because it couldn't have been lower than the point of Big Bang. Just like the opposite of our universe right now, and Big Bang must have turned it around. Let's say before Big Bang and before the creation of our before the universe of that, which is the reverse of universe, where entropy started from maximum and went to minimum, there must be another universe where entropy started from minimum and went to maximum. Since things cannot come out of nothing, our universe existed since forever and will exist until forever. And if Big Bangs as we know it happens, then it's logical to assume our universe and everything as we know it is a wave of entropy rising and lowering for infinity. So if it's logical to assume that I have written this very text and infinite time, and if I will never stop repeating something like this, which means that I have written this exact same text, I have made this exact same video over and over and over and over in these universes. And that was what I meant by saying we are here. We are here. We are here. It doesn't really have importance at this point, because it's the nature of our reality at the most basic extent. And I know that sounds like existential crisis right now, but everything, if you think about it long enough, becomes an existential crisis. So it is not really my problem at this point, it is really the realities and thinking problem.